Assalamu alaikum, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to Kanem English, and my name is Babakura Modu. As I promised in the previous lesson, where I treated the preparation before learning the clauses, what you need to learn about the clauses. So in this topic today, we are going to look at the clause and its type. First, what is a clause? A clause is a group of words that contains subject and a verb combination. For example, if you say I saw him, we said the clause has the subject and a verb. So I saw him, I is the subject and saw is the verb. Therefore, this is a clause. And if you could remember in our previous class, we mentioned the two types of clause, where we mentioned the first one is the independent clause, that is the main clause. Then the second one is dependent clause, which we call the subordinate clause. Let us have this example under the independent clause, and why do we say it is independent or main clause? The man is here. This is a clause because we have demand the subject, and then we have is the verb. Number two, teachers like student. Teachers like student. So teachers is subject, like is the verb. The driver took the bag. So the driver is the subject, took is the verb. So all these statements, the three examples I gave, are the main clauses because they can convey meaning. Anyone can understand this because they have the complete meaning and it's understandable. But what about the subordinate clause? That is the dependent clause. If you now tell someone whose brother was killed, so this one is incomplete meaning. That work hard, this is also not complete. Which he bought, this is also not complete. So this brother is subject, was killed is the verb. This is clause. That work hard, so that is the subject, that is the demonstrative pronoun subject. Work is the verb. Therefore, this is clause. Which he bought, he is the subject and bought is the verb. So this is also a clause, but this clause cannot convey meaning. It is not understandable. Therefore, this is dependent clause. Let us have this example. This dependent clause require the main clause to complete its meaning. If you now, for instance, you said the man is here in the first sentence under the independent clause. The man whose brother was killed is here. The man whose brother was killed, is here. So here we have the complete sentence where we have the main clause and the dependent. So the man is here is the independent clause. Whose brother was killed is the dependent clause. Teachers like students that work hard. So you can see that work hard is the dependent clause, but it's complete. The meaning has come out when we now join it with the independent clause. The driver took the bag which he brought. So which he brought is the dependent clause, while the driver took the bag is the independent clause. So this dependent clause require the main clause to complete its meaning. Main clause are clauses that can stand on their own. Therefore, dependent clause are dependent on the main clauses because they do not on their own express complete thought. They need the main clause to complete their meaning. The process and the way we can identify the independent clause and the dependent clause. And there is one thing I didn't mention, that whenever you want to now identify the main clause and the dependent clause, there is a trigger, there is a starting point where you will understand that this is dependent. So assalamu alaikum, this is the end of today's lesson and I hope you enjoyed it, and inshallah in the next topic we are also going to look at